I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you everything you need to know about food allergies. Food allergies are something we should all know about, and as someone who's been working for the past 2.5 years in a K-12 space, giving food allergy trainings, making modified menus for students with food allergies and medical conditions, conducting food allergy audits, etc., I know that I'm qualified to be teaching this to you today. On the screen, you'll see all of the topics we're going to cover today, but with all of that said, let's get started. I'm going to start out a little serious and tell you the story of a young man. And what happened to this young man is something that happens all too often because of a lack of education. I'm going to tell you the story of a young man named Sergio Lopez. Now, Sergio Lopez grew up in his hometown of Harlingen, Texas. Sergio was an only child, so his mother actually says that he was her whole world. At 24 years old, Sergio was working a summer job in his hometown, but his plan was to move to Austin, Texas after the summer to pursue his dream of becoming a musician. And because Sergio and his mother were so close, she was actually planning on following him there. But unfortunately, Sergio never got to do this because he died that summer from anaphylaxis. Let's take a minute and listen to his story.
A grieving mother is back at the Texas house to push her bill for food allergy awareness in Texas restaurants, as well as give more training for food handlers. The bill would also require an educational poster to remind workers to be careful. Belinda Vaca holding up her son's picture. Her son, she lost him 9 years ago after he had an allergic reaction to a meal that he ordered at a Texas restaurant. She says he did ask 3 times if peanuts were in his meal. He was allergic to that, repeatedly told no, but then later died that night.
I let them know immediately that my only child had died at 1 o'clock in the morning after coming into their restaurant the day before. And they said their response was, well, he asked for peanuts, not peanut butter. So my son died because of ignorance.
The bill was kept alive after last night's vote, but still needs one more approval to move forward. The Texas Restaurant Association tells us they do support it because it adopts practical statewide standards.
So as you heard in the video, Sergio, on a break from work, went with his coworker to a Texas Mexican restaurant. He ordered a taco, then asked 3 different times if that taco contained peanuts because he was very aware of his peanut allergy. And he was told no, even though the taco did contain peanut butter, which is made from peanuts, therefore containing the peanut allergen. And Sergio ended up eating those tacos and dying from anaphylaxis. If Sergio were alive today in 2025, he would be 35 years old. Now, on a lighter note, Sergio's mother, Belinda, has been working to get a law passed in Sergio's honor, and she was successful. In September of 2023, the Sergio Lopez Food Allergy Awareness Act was passed, and a year later, in September 2024, this law went into full effect in the state of Texas. This law requires that all Texas restaurants display standardized food allergy posters and that all food service workers receive food allergy training. And Belinda, right now, currently, is working on getting a law like this passed on the national level so that it will apply to all states in the United States. Now, this photo on the screen here is of Sergio and his mother, Belinda. It was the last ever photo taken of Sergio, and to my knowledge, it actually was taken the night before Sergio went to that Texas Mexican restaurant. Now, I tell you Sergio's story because I think it's really important to understand how serious food allergies can be. It's not something to be taken lightly. And education about it is so important. If that food service worker at that Mexican restaurant, when Sergio asked if there were peanuts in the taco, had just gone back and read the food labels of all of the ingredients that went into the taco, or if they weren't trained to do that, asked their manager, then Sergio could still be alive today. So thank you for being here and taking an interest in food allergies. Now let's learn how common food allergies actually are. Back in the 80s and 90s, food allergies weren't as common. People growing up during that time probably didn't know anybody in their class that had a food allergy. But food allergies have doubled since then. Today, 1 in 13 children have a food allergy, which is actually 2 kids per classroom. And another interesting fact is that 1 in 4 children have their first ever allergic reaction at school, which is why it's so important for school food service workers to be educated on food allergies. Now, what about adults? Now, for adults, food allergies are a little bit less common than they are in children, but it's not super far off. Data shows that 1 in 16 adults in the US today have a food allergy. Now, why are food allergies important? Food allergies are important regardless of age, but I think it's important to note that children already have weakened immune systems, and it's not just children. There are lots of populations of people that already have weakened immune systems. So you add food allergies on top of it, it's just something to take very seriously. Food allergies can also be life-threatening. Now, not every allergic reaction is going to end in death, but it definitely can, so it's something that we need to think about and keep in mind. Despite all the amazing medical research that's going on, all the progress that we made in the medical field today, there is still no cure for food allergies. So people with food allergies just have to avoid all foods that contain their allergen. There's really no other way to do it, unfortunately. Now that we've talked about why food allergies are important, let's define what a food allergy is. A food allergy is an abnormal immune response that happens in the body after eating a particular food. So what happens in somebody with a food allergy is they eat a food that contains their allergen. Allergens are proteins for the most part, by the way. The body then identifies that allergen or protein as a threat. Now remember, it's an abnormal immune response, so it's not actually a threat, but the body thinks that it is, and then the immune system attacks it. And that's when you get an allergic reaction. It's important to note that somebody that's allergic to milk, for example, isn't actually allergic to milk. They're allergic to the allergen or the protein that's in the milk. So this person wouldn't just be allergic to fluid milk, cheese, and yogurt, right, which are made from milk. They also wouldn't be able to have something like pancakes that were made with milk, for example, because even though it's a smaller amount of milk, the milk allergen or protein is still going to be present, and that person could end up having an allergic reaction to that. So once again, food allergies have to do with the immune system. They are incorrectly identifying an allergen as a threat to the body and attacking it, which causes allergic reactions. And that allergen is, for the most part, most of the time, a protein. Out of all the things people are allergic to, there are 9 allergens that are the most common. Now, you might have heard of the top 8. There used to be 8 allergens that were the most common, but recently they added an allergen, and so now they're called the Big 9 allergens. The Big 9 allergens are peanuts, tree nuts, wheat, eggs, milk, soy, fish, shellfish, and sesame. So those are the most common allergens that people are allergic to in the US today. Obviously, we want to avoid causing any allergic reactions, but if one does occur, we need to know what to look for. There's a variety of symptoms, so I'm actually just going to read them to you, and please sit through this because it is important. Symptoms of an allergic reaction can include itchy, watery eyes, itchy nose, sneezing, runny nose, rashes, hives, which is a rash with raised red patches, stomach cramps, vomiting, diarrhea, bloating, swelling, redness, pain, tongue swelling, cough, throat closing, wheezing, which is a whistling sound when you breathe, chest tightness and losing your breath, feeling faint, lightheaded, or blacking out, and a sense of impending doom. You might notice that there's a wide variety of symptoms here, and some of them sound like everyday allergies or a cold, but it's important to take these seriously. Mild allergic reactions can end up becoming severe as more time passes, and it's important to note that somebody that's only ever had a minor allergic reaction to an allergen in the past can still have a severe allergic reaction to that same allergen in the future. So you definitely want to take these symptoms seriously. If you see something, say something. Remember that if you or someone near you needs medical attention, call 911. Something you never, ever, ever, ever want to do is assume the severity of an allergy. If anything, you want to assume that every allergy is severe. Now, allergies can be anywhere from really minor, you get a little bit of a rash or something when you eat your allergen, to super severe where it's airborne. Literally, just being in the same room as your allergen can send you into anaphylactic shock. And if we assume that an allergy is mild, we might get a little bit lax on following food allergy protocols, doing what we're supposed to be doing, and it can really put that person with a food allergy at risk. Now let's learn some ways that we can prevent allergic reactions from happening. The first thing you can do to help prevent allergic reactions from occurring is learn how to read a nutrition label, which I'm going to teach you how to do now. The first thing you're going to want to look at is the allergen statement, and that's going to be present under the nutrition facts label and under the ingredients list in bold. And this allergen statement is going to say contains, and then it's going to list the allergens that it contains. So for example, in these Cheez-Its, it says contains wheat, milk, and soy ingredients. So I know anybody with a wheat, gluten, milk, or soy allergy cannot safely consume this product. There's something else that you're going to want to look for that's going to be located right under that allergen statement, and that's called an advisory statement. And advisory statements usually say something along the lines of processed in a facility that also processes sesame. I actually have one here on the cinnamon graham crackers box, and it says may contain traces of milk and eggs. So for me, because I'm assuming that all allergies are severe, if somebody was allergic to milk and eggs, I would not give them this product because I'm assuming that there is milk and eggs in this product since it says may contain traces. And if this allergy is severe, even traces of an allergen could cause an allergic reaction. Now, if you're looking for just the big 9 allergens, you can actually stop right there. But if you're looking for allergens that are outside of the big 9 allergens, or you just want to be extra safe, the next thing you're going to want to look at is the ingredients list, which is located directly under the nutrition facts label. It's going to say ingredients, and then it's going to list all the ingredients present in the product. And all you're going to do is you're going to read this list and you're going to look for the allergen. And if you don't see the allergen there, then it's not contained in the food. And that's it, that's all there is to it. You may have heard of something before called cross-contamination. Now this has to do with bacteria and viruses. When foods are not stored, cooked, or handled properly, bacteria and viruses can be present in food. And if we eat that food that contains the bacteria and viruses, we can get sick, something that's called a foodborne illness. This is why we wash our hands properly before we handle food, store foods at the proper temperatures, and cook foods to the proper temperatures. Because cooking the bacteria and viruses can actually kill them, and then they can't harm us. But we need to make an important differentiation between cross-contamination, which I just discussed, and cross-contact. Unlike cross-contamination, which has to do with bacteria and viruses, cross-contact has to do with allergens or proteins. Cross-contact is when the protein or allergen of one food comes into contact with another food. And this can happen directly or indirectly. And I'll give examples in a minute. But the thing with proteins is, unlike bacteria and viruses, they cannot be killed by cooking them. So the proteins just have to be avoided completely. This means that if cross-contact happens when we're preparing a food for somebody with a food allergy, we have to discard that food, wash and sanitize everything, and start completely over. Let's get into some examples of cross-contact. Cross-contact can happen directly or indirectly. So here's an example of direct cross-contact. Let's say you're making a salad for somebody with a sesame allergy, and the recipe that you usually uses sesame seeds. So without thinking, you put some sesame seeds onto the salad. Then you remember, oh wait, this is for somebody with a sesame allergy, so they can't have sesame seeds. So you pour out the sesame seeds, and then you give the salad to the person with the sesame allergy. Well, you're not going to want to do that, because cross contact has happened. Now, even though you've taken out the sesame seeds, the protein or the allergen, which we can't see with the naked eye, could absolutely still be on the lettuce and any other things that are in the salad. So if that person with a sesame allergy eats that salad, they could absolutely have an allergic reaction. And of course, we don't want that. Another example would be if you're making a hamburger, you accidentally put cheese on it. This person has a milk allergy that you're making this for, so you scrape the cheese off. Even if you can't see any cheese left on the beef patty, on the bun, the milk allergen could still be present. So you would have to just totally discard the hamburger and start completely over. What about indirect cross contact? Well, let's take a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, for example. Let's say I'm making myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then I'm gonna make a jelly sandwich for somebody with a peanut allergy. So I've got my bread, I take my knife, I go into the peanut butter jar, I spread the peanut butter onto the bread, then I wipe the peanut butter off onto a paper towel, and then I go into my jelly jar, spread the jelly on my bread, I put it together, I've got my sandwich. Perfect. Now I'm going to get out my bread and I'm going to dip the knife into the jelly jar and spread the jelly onto the bread, put that together, and I've made my friend a jelly sandwich. Well, this would be indirect cross contact because even though I wiped off the peanut butter off of the knife, the peanut allergen could still be present. And when I stuck the knife into the jelly jar, I've just put that peanut allergen into the jelly jar. So now all of that jelly has undergone cross contact and the peanut allergy could still be present. So if I was going to make a jelly sandwich for somebody with a peanut allergy, I would then have to open a completely new jelly jar. And by the way, that's also not a good way to do it. If I was going to make a jelly sandwich for somebody with a peanut allergy and then a peanut butter and jelly for myself, I'd want to make their sandwich first and then make mine to prevent cross contact from happening. So that was direct and indirect cross contact. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Besides reading nutrition labels and taking steps to avoid cross contact, here are some other tips to help prevent allergic reactions. First, you can memorize the big 9 allergens. Since they're the most common things that people are allergic to, it's good to know these off the top of your head. Next, know the common food sources for the big 9 allergens. So you want to know what foods are these allergens commonly in. For example, milk is commonly in fluid milk, cheese, yogurt, and even creams like sour cream and ice cream. And lastly, if you're not sure about something, ask the right person. It really depends on the situation. If you're in a food service establishment, ask the manager. In general, ask a registered dietitian. Got a personal question for your friend with a food allergy? Ask them. On the screen here, you'll see lots of resources for you. All of these are going to be linked in the description below. The first one is the FARE website. FARE stands for Food Allergy Research and Education. And this is actually the official website for food allergies. So if you want any food allergy information, you're going to want to go to this website. They have all sorts of resources. They have posters, handouts, articles, all sorts of stuff. Whether you just recently got diagnosed with a food allergy or you have a friend or family member with a food allergy, you're a food service worker, or you just want to learn more about food allergies, this is the place to go. It's foodallergy.org. The second resource for you is actually the Texas Department of State Health Services Food Service Employee Allergen Awareness Poster. This is actually the official standardized food allergy poster that has to be displayed in all Texas restaurants because of the Sergio Lopez Food Allergy Awareness Act. It's got lots of information on there, including how to spot anaphylaxis, what to do if it occurs, tips for avoiding cross contact, etc., etc. So that's a really great resource for you. And lastly, we have a food allergy handout created by me. And basically, it's just summarizing everything that is in this video, everything that I've said today, just kind of in a really easy to understand and pretty looking way. So if you're interested in any of these resources, they will be linked down in the description for you. I want to leave you with a quote from Belinda Vaca, Sergio Lopez's mother. She said, "The more people know of this, the more people will be saved. And because you chose to sit here and educate yourself, more people will be. So thank you. If you want to keep up with Belinda and how the national law is going, you can follow her over on Instagram. Her handle is at SurgeNoPeanuts. I'm sure she would love to hear some kind and encouraging words from you. If you have any questions about any of the content that I went over today, please feel free to leave them in the comments. As I mentioned previously, all of the links to the resources that I mentioned today will be in the description below. I am thinking about doing a part 2. I'm interested in going a little bit more in depth into some of these topics and introducing some new ones. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know in the comments. But with all of that said, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope to see you in the next one.